You can turn what most people see as a disadvantage into your biggest asset. Living with ADHD as an entrepreneur has its challenges, but with the right approach, it becomes a game-changing superpower. In this video, I'll be breaking down the strategies that have helped me leverage my ADHD to build a $30 million online business, create a life beyond what I ever dreamed of, and make an impact on thousands of entrepreneurs around the world. But first, if you're new here, my name's John, husband, father, and founder of AdClients.com. And over the past 10 years, I've launched and scaled multiple online businesses, generated tens of millions in that time, and I've done it without having to hustle 24/7, sacrifice my personal life, or stop doing the things that I love. And then now here on this channel, I help other people do the same. I've had many points in my life, mainly back at school, where I was told by teachers and other kids that my ADHD was a disadvantage, that there was a negative connotation to it, that it was going to hold me back from propelling myself forward for what I wanted for my life and my career. And I've seen the complete opposite. I've seen that leaning into my ADHD traits is actually something of a superpower, and I think has actually propelled my businesses forward. And in this video, I want to share with you some of the ways that my ADHD, I feel, has benefited me in business. And I want to finish up the video by sharing with you some of my productivity hacks that, although they work for me with ADHD, I think perhaps they'll really benefit and help you as well. The first thing is that I get hyper focused on things, and it tends to be when I want to learn something. When I'm acquiring new knowledge, I don't find it frustrating if I'm not getting it straight away. I don't find it frustrating if it's taking too long. I just become obsessive about learning something until I've mastered it, and then I can tick that box and move on. And this has greatly helped me in the world of business, because it's an ever-changing landscape where you're constantly needing to learn new things. And so if I'm driving traffic to my businesses and social media platforms are changing and the algorithms are changing and the way we produce content is changing, the way we script and write ad campaigns is changing, I don't mind that. In fact, I can embrace that, and I can pick up those changes much quicker than the average person, because when I see there's a change and something that needs to be learnt, then again, I will obsess over it until I have figured it out in the most time-efficient way possible. But I also find that when I'm learning something new, I almost have to digest far more information than the average person to retain what I need to about that topic. What I find is, as I get obsessed with learning something, I could get my knowledge to a 10 out of 10 on that particular thing, but give it 6 months and it will be reduced to a 6. For some reason, I just can't store much. And so I take advantage of new information when I first learn it, knowing that the memory of it's going to deteriorate. An example would be luxury watches. I got into a period of time where I wanted to learn about the luxury watch market. I spent hours per day learning about what to look out for, what brands are most important, what are the key things to look for that is pointing to a luxury watch that is going to go up in value versus go down in value. I learned what I needed to in the space of 2 months. I bought a bunch of watches, and then I got back out of the game. And again, my knowledge went up to here, and now it's been 6-12 months, my knowledge has been reduced, but I've retained just enough that I could pick up that topic again if I wanted to. Same thing with property. Got very excited about investing in property, spent 6 months, went all in, neck deep on that topic, then went and bought a bunch of properties, and now they're being renovated and I'm moving on to another topic. So I get hyper focused and dip into a topic, learn and master it, and then come out and go somewhere else. I struggle to learn about a bunch of different topics simultaneously. Another thing that I've noticed is that I obsess over the details, and when I'm talking about the minute details, some people focus on the macro, I very much focus on the micro. And this can be my biggest strength and also my biggest weakness, because when you're growing and scaling a business, I think attention to detail is really important. And I pride myself in that. I don't want anything to get forgotten about. I don't want anything to be missed. When it comes to growing the business, I'm making decisions based on micro numbers, those 1% that I think add up to actually making a game-changing move. But the answer to a next level of scale in business is often hidden in those numbers, and people that are just looking at the macro are constantly missing that, and it's producing a messy business. And I won't. If we set up a conference room and there's 500 chairs set up, as soon as I walk in that room, I will see the one chair that is crooked and hasn't been set in the row correctly. And I find that has really helped me to have a world-class business, because nothing gets forgotten about, nothing gets missed. And hopefully that's translating over into the teams that I'm building as well. Something that I've noticed as I've grown and scaled our operation, and as I'm speaking to other people that have businesses of the same size or perhaps even greater or larger than mine, is things do tend to get messy, and you're supposed to just accept it. And I just can't. And that's where it becomes my biggest weakness, because the idea of scaling to 10 million a year, 20 million a year, 30 million a year, 100 million a year. Again, the people that I've spoken to that have achieved these levels have told me that that's just part and parcel with scale, that clients are missed messages and don't get login credentials as they were supposed to, or someone got missed over here, or this report didn't get to the person on time. But that's part of scale. It's messy. And that's where it's my weakness, because I just can't allow that. To me, that is absolutely unacceptable. If everything isn't world-class and everything's at 100% correct, then it bothers me to the point of I'd rather not grow than have a messy business. The third way my ADHD has outworked itself with me that I only see as an advantage is that once I start something, I just will not give up and I will not give in. And this will show itself when I'm trying to do a big task like growing and scaling a business. When things get hard, I just won't stop until I figure it out. I understand that there's a solution to every problem. And if there isn't an identified solution to a problem yet, or no one else has figured it out, well, there's an opportunity for me to learn something that no one else has ever learned before. I just will not give up. But it also translates itself to the little things. I'll get distracted by an idea that I've done, and now that I'm locked on it, I just can't stop until I've done it. So for example, we were here in the studio one time, and I just decided to flip this Sharpie pen and try to get it to land on its end. And once I've done that once, now I feel like I've started this thing. I can't stop until I've done it. And so I've flipped this thing a couple hundred times, and I just refused with my team to continue filming the content we were in the middle of until I had successfully landed this pen. And good news, I did land it and we were able to move on.
Hey!
I've also found that I can shoulder a lot of weight. I can carry a lot of risk and it not affect me. I can compartmentalize my emotions pretty well. And it's one of those things, you don't know what you don't know. I just assume that everyone feels the same way I do or thinks about things the same way I do until you speak to people and find out that that's not the case. And the older I've gotten, the more I've spoken to people, the more I've realized that I do view stress and overwhelm just differently perhaps to the average person. What might overwhelm and stress someone else might not overwhelm and stress me. And that's really, really helped me, because in business, it can be quote unquote stressful. Right? There's a lot of risk that you're taking. There's a lot of financial pressure. And especially as you grow a business and you've got a team that you look after and you pay a bunch of people. And if your business crashes and burns, then, you know, a whole bunch of people are out of jobs. I take that very, very seriously. I care greatly about my team. And so there's all this, you know, there's all these feelings and emotions and concerns, yet I can carry that. Walking into the studio here today, I've had 5 pieces of bad news today, 3 of which were absolutely terrible. Yet I can walk in here and I can switch that off and I can have fun shooting these videos. I just have an ability to be able to do that, to compartmentalize my thoughts. And some of those thoughts can be very weight bearing, but I can shoulder it and I can handle it. And finally, I take great interest in figuring out how things work, calculating how something is possible. It drives my wife crazy. If we're sat in a restaurant and she's choosing from the menu, I'm counting how many people are in that restaurant and how much I think the average order value would be for a meal and maybe a drink or two. And then I count how many staff members are on shift, and I guess how many chefs there might be in the kitchen. I have a go at thinking about how much the electric bill might be for all the lights and all the equipment to run that restaurant that evening, and I'm trying to work out whether they're even profitable. And I actually take enjoyment trying to figure these things out. If I walk into the hotel foyer, I'm trying to figure out how many rooms they've got, how much occupancy do I think they have, and again, I'm trying to figure out all the costs because I just enjoy it. I remember my parents telling me from a young age, I was fascinated by taking something apart just to see, firstly, how it worked, and then seeing if I can put it back together. Now, that more often than not, as a kid, just meant that I broke things and didn't put them back together. But I can see now how that's translated into business, and it's awesome, and it's really, really helped me. And so rather than just taking a risk without any understanding of my chances of success, I first calculate the risk. I look at the pros, I look at the cons, I see the success rate from other people. I figure out perhaps as much as I can about how that thing is done before I take the leap and do it. And so almost everything I do, I'm calculating that risk. And if I know that I've got more than a 51% chance of success with any one thing, then the compounding effect of all of the decisions I'm making, I'm going to win more than I lose. And just like trading, I'm going to have more upside than downside. So now that I've shared all that and you've gotten to know me a little bit better, I also want to share with you some of the productivity hacks that I've put in place. And these are things that I use, they work very well for me, and hopefully they help you too. The first thing is that I always need to know what I'm working on and what I intend to get done in a day. Now, the idea of a to-do list is not new information. You've heard of this before, but whether you're actively utilizing one or not, or perhaps using it in the most efficient way, hopefully you learn something from the way I do it, because I like to keep things simple. I don't want it messy. I use a platform called Notion for my to-do lists, and here's quite simply what I do. Every single morning, sometimes I do it the night before I go to bed for the next day, but I'll make a list of all of the things that I need to do that day. So let's say I've got 5 tasks. I put all of those tasks in, and there's a couple of things that I assign to each task. The first is, how big is that task? So task 1, is it a quick task? Is it a medium task? Or is it a big task? Let's say this one's a quick task. I'm going to go ahead and then give myself an estimated time that I think it would take me to do that task. Now, you don't have to get this spot on. You might get this incorrect, but at least you know what you're shooting for and you can start to plan your day. So I might say, well, that really should take me 5 minutes, that one. I look at task number 2, I go, well, that's more of a medium task, and I think that'll probably take me 45 minutes. Task 3 is also a medium task, but I think that should only take me about 20 minutes. And then task 4 is a big task, and in fact, that's a really big one. That's going to take me over 2 hours, so I go ahead and put that in there. And then perhaps task 5, I've got another big one, but it's only going to be a 1 hour task. Now, what I can start to do here as I plan my day is not just have a big exhaustive to-do list that perhaps I get to the end of the day and I had no hopes of ever fulfilling on that list because I didn't really estimate how long it was all going to take me. I now know that for me to do these 5 tasks today is going to take me around about 4 hours or so, perhaps a little bit over 4. So I know now how many more items I can add in. I can add a task 6, 7, 8, because I'm going to work for 8 to 10 hours today, so I can plan out how I'm going to use that time. And then once I've done that, beginning of the day takes me 10, 15 minutes, then to focus on the task at hand, I'll assign over here on the right-hand side whether this is currently in progress, done, or if it's a priority. So I might say that task 5 is a priority, but I'm not getting to it just yet, but I just want to have that red alert there in front of me that it is indeed a priority. But task 2 is the one that I'm currently working on. So again, at any time, I can visually, very simply, very cleanly see what I'm working on. Once that's done, I change it to done, and I move on to the next task that I plan to do. Now, here's where you take this to the next level. My tip number 2 is that you set timers for every single task that you're working on, because what this helps at least me do is not get distracted. If I set a timer on my phone because I'm about to do task number 2 and I've assigned myself 45 minutes to do it, then I will set a 45-minute timer either on my phone, or I've got a little desktop timer as well. And I know now I'm working on a task. I'm in the middle of something. I can't let my mind wander or get distracted because the timer's on, which means I'm working on a task, and that's the allocated time that I gave myself. So as I get closer to that timer hitting 0, I know that I'm about to go over time, which is absolutely fine. I show myself grace. I will reset the timer, give myself another 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but now I know mentally I'm over time. So I'm really going to have to pick up the pace here to get this task completed so that I can move on to the next one. So the combination of a simple to-do list like I just showed you, along with timing every task that I do, it not only makes me insanely productive, but it also helps me to learn my rhythm, learn whether I'm estimating how long a task is going to take accurately, and then I can help inform my decision next time when I assign a task a particular time. And so I'm going to have this compounding effect of getting better at doing this and therefore being more productive. And this also really helps with something that people with ADHD commonly struggle with, called time blindness, when you're thinking about a task and you don't really know how long that task should even take. And so it often leads to procrastinating because you're not nailing yourself down to doing that task and knowing how long it's going to take. And even if you start that task, you may not really know how far into that task you are, and so then you veer off track. So again, having that on a list, having an estimated time, and having a timer out in front of you helps you keep on track. And it goes hand in hand with my next tip, which is setting a deadline for yourself to get something done. What I just demonstrated a moment ago is setting myself a micro deadline, so giving myself 30 minutes to do a certain task, but I'm also using deadlines for bigger tasks that might be stretching over a few days or maybe a few weeks, and I'm literally putting it in my calendar when I need to get something done by to help with this time blindness, but also so that I can implement something called Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law dictates that a project that you're working on expands to fill the allotted time that it's been given, meaning that if I give myself 3 days to complete a task, it'll probably take 3 days. But if I give myself 1 day to complete that exact same task, I will find a way to get it done in one day. And so having a deadline really helps you to do that. The next tip is an age-old one that you've probably heard of before, but it's accountability. And it's actually very important. We throw this word around and we profess to understand it and understand the value of it, but how many of us are actually doing it? How many of you have people that you are truly accountable to? Not just your spouse or a friend that maybe every now and again asks you how you're getting on with that business that you wanted to start, but truly having something of accountability partners or a partner that is actually tracking your progress. You are collectively working together to make sure you're hitting your goals, that you're hitting things on time, and so many other benefits. I've seen tremendous value in having this. I've joined coaching programs where I have strong accountability to get the thing completed in a timely manner. I have created and launched my own coaching programs and masterminds where we hold our clients accountable to the tasks they're supposed to be doing and when they're supposed to be doing them by, so they actually get the result. And then I myself am constantly joining different masterminds and groups of entrepreneurs that are playing the game at the same level or higher. And we have lots of different ways that we are truly holding each other accountable. One of the things that we do, which I have found really helpful, is every quarter we get together with our Titan Mastermind. We have an incredible couple of days together sharing what's working in our businesses, and we have a session at the very end of the mastermind on the second day where we go around the room and we all share what we're going to be working on and what we will have done by the time we meet again in 3 months. And what you'll find is that when you're in a room like that and you say something out loud and you say you're going to do it, it would be very embarrassing if you found yourself in that room again 3 months later and you didn't do what you said you were going to do. And maybe you're not in a position right now where you can be getting into a mastermind or a room like that. Find a way to surround yourself with the right people who can start to elevate you and hold you accountable in these ways. Go to events, network with people, find online communities, get yourself embedded as best you can, and surround yourself by people that are going to push you forward, not hold you back. And the fourth thing is you've got to be doing what you love and what you really enjoy. People with ADHD tend to get very bored and get very bored very easily. And so if I'm not enjoying the work that I'm doing, if I'm not passionate about it, if I don't love it, if I'm not actually having a good time doing it, then I will move on. So I've got to do one of two things, or maybe even both of them. The first is I've got to make sure that the work I'm doing naturally and inherently is fun for me, and I get into something that I enjoy. But then the second thing is I've got to constantly find ways to make what I'm doing fun and enjoyable. Even if I picked a topic, I picked a business, I picked an area that was fun in the beginning, and maybe we've drifted off track a little bit, I have to pick up on point number 2. I've got to implement ways to stimulate my brain to have fun with what I'm doing, because if every day is just mindless tasks and I'm losing my passion, then very quickly that will snowball into losing interest in that altogether, and then I will drop it and I will go somewhere else. So I hope you found this video interesting, insightful, and helpful. And if you want to learn more about the type of advice that I would give to budding entrepreneurs, and check out this video here, 12 years of brutal honesty from an online entrepreneur in just 15 minutes. Go ahead and check that out. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in a future video.